First, I'd like to thank the Minister for giving us the opportunity to participate in this workshop. It's a very good thing, and I hope we'll find solution to the current problems. Before giving the mic to my colleagues here that will do the short presentation, I would like to underline 4 points I think that are important and maybe that are bringing misunderstandings in our process. First, it's the start of the process. The beer process can be started and must be started long time before the arrival of the container in the country. And that's something that is not happening at the moment for everybody. The CRF must be, it can be gotten before the arrival of the container. So that's something to be looked at because the vast majority of the importers manage to get their CRF before the arrival of the container. So if there is any issue and some people for whatever reason cannot manage, we need to look into it and see why. The second thing is one of the challenges that we have is the quality of documents that we receive. The invoices and other documents that we receive, packing list, bill of lading, must be consistent. And as well, they must be clear and it's the responsibility of the importers to declare thoroughly whatever they bring into the country. They know exactly what they bring, and at the moment it's not the case. So it brings delays on our part because we need to deal with the documents that are not completely okay. So that's something that needs to be looked at. And our doors are always open. We can always explain to everybody what needs to be on the invoices. And we can organize small meetings, small trainings for anybody. So that's something that we can organize with the Custom Brokers Association as well. The third point is about valuation and classification. That's our mandate to do valuation and classification for all the products that comes into the country. And for this we follow the international best practice. We follow the WTO rules of classifications and valuation. So we can justify all our classification and valuation. If anyone has any issue, he can come to our office, make a claim, and we'll look into it. There is a last appeal to be made if there is a disagreement to customs, to LRA. The fourth point is about our online tracking. We have an online tracking system, which is called Bregates, which is available to all the importers. So there's not enough people, I believe, that are using it, but we have promoted it. For the moment, it's not available to brokers because I don't know how far they have gone with the licensing. But when the licensing is finished, then we can have the information for each broker to be put it in our system, and then they will have access to this tracking system. So that's where the 4 points I wanted to underline. Now we'll give the mic to my colleague. He will do the short presentation, but I'll be there for the questions and answers.
Good afternoon to all. Okay, I'm Amos Conley, Operations Supervisor at VBAC, and I will do the process review, VBAC process review. But we are here for, okay? So we start with, we have a pre-shipment inspection program, importation by sea. There is no threshold for importation by sea. All shipments imported by sea are subject to PSR inspection. And we have the fees of 1.5% of the full. So we pay a minimum of 190. That is if your full is below 16,000. 190 for sea, for all sea shipment. Special cases are for REX, which is $1 per metric ton, per trillion, $2 per metric ton, and for bulk oil shipment, $2 per metric ton. That's VBAC fees. Request, inspection request form. This is a special kind of form that has been designed for importation. My colleague here for Commerce spoke on the IPD session. For all items that go on the IPD, you can go on this form. So make it easier for you. Time frame for processing RRF is 4 hours. We advise all our importers and brokers that you bring your IPD, drop it in, and you can return in 4 hours to pick it up. If there is any case or any problem with the document, we will put a rejection form on our document, and then we go back, he make a correction, he resubmit it. Requested document for IPD and RRF. The field RRF or the IPD approved by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. The pro forma approved by the Ministry of Commerce, stamped and signed. Business registration for individual, a copy of the team number form, payment slip for BIVA fees. If you have the document in place, automatically we are going to process your document. Then we have this documentary destination inspection program that was introduced sometime last year. Last year. Importation by sea or all importation by air are subject to documentary destination inspection. That is, the document you gave us, we use that document to issue a certificate prior to the arrival of the cargo at the airport. We can do an inspection. Importation by sea that are not going on PSR. Maybe the exporter may have forgotten or done the process and not the PSR, and the commodity arrived in the country. We definitely applied that via processing it without paying additional money. Maybe we are paying for the PSR file, we into it. We're not going to collect additional money, but we just turn it on to be a DR process. Sea shipment. This was sea shipment. All certificate fee can be issued based on the document provided. That is on the DDR process. That the importer have opened the IRF with. That is, if you give us the invoice, you are not going to come back again and say, I want to do an amendment, because we have to issue the certificate based on that document, and if the certificate is issued, you present, the document presented is the bill of lading, the final invoice, and the process IRF. And if you present that document, you cannot come back and say, oh, my bill is wrong, so I will change it. No. The declaration laid there will issue it. If you have no issue, you can contact LRA with that. The following shipments are exempted from PSR and will undergo DDR without penalty. All containers that have undergone PSR, but for some reason, they're fixing it or seal broken. Sometimes customs of origin do verification. If you have more containers, they will go and choose the one and do some verification of that container, they will break the seal. So if they come down again, you report it, and you go to LRA to do the process. The following shipment will undergo DDR, but will be charged penalty or importation that are not undergone PSR, except when the shipment is PSR exempted. And that exemption is given by Ministry of by LRA or by Ministry of Commerce. We don't get exemption. Air shipment and the threshold. BIVA inspection is mandatory for goods imported by air when the CRF value is 2,000. A certificate will be issued, as I said, based on the document provided by the importer at the opening of the RF prior to the arrival of the shipment. The physical inspection will be performed at the airport. Now, we have the fees of 1.5% on the CRF for this kind of a case, and the minimum fees of $100. If your CRF $100 flat rate, and then we go about, we apply the 1.5%. Document required for documentation inspection, that is the DDR process. We have faced a lot of problem with this because more importers will not know what to do, and they will bring document incomplete. Like for example, if you are giving a packing list and you say, boss of personal effect, there is no way we can go forward with that. There is no way we can issue a certificate based on boss of personal effects, because you got to provide a HSS code that call personal effect. We don't have that. So it'll be very difficult for us. That happened in China with their field for a period of time. The field-in RRF or RPD approved by the Ministry of Commerce for DDR. The final invoice signed and stamped by the importer, by the exporting company. They also been faced with challenge except for personal effects. They were there, the original stamp and the signature from Ministry of Commerce. And to make it easier, we have these decks for commerce also at our place that also verify signature coming from them. To verify the user signature that it is real or someone has fake it. The duty packing list, a copy of the transport document that is bill of lading, the business registration certificate that all regulations are given to us from Ministry of Commerce, we have to follow them. The payment slip for BVAC, health certificate for food products, certificate of analysis for pharmaceutical products, certificate of analysis for export, for wooden board, plywood, fabric, hardwood. Certificate issuance and collection. 2 to 3 working days after submission of the required document to our office, that is for DDR. Certificate can be collected at the Freeport branch or from the RRA branch if you present the original RRF or RPD. Please collect your certificate before the arrival of the shipment and verify the information. This is one of the areas we have also faced challenge with the customers. They will collect that certificate and keep it and allow the bundle to arrive in the Freeport. Then when they look at it, oh, bundle number is not correct, then you're going to bring it back in for query, and sometimes we have delay. So what we advise you is collect the certificate, read through it, go through it, and then if you find mistake, just signal or it will correct that. Claims. In case the importer disagrees with the valuation or classification or any duty on the CRF, he has the right to apply. You can apply online, you can apply it at our front there, we have the form there. We have our claim address, you can file that your protest to the claim address, or you can go to our front desk and collect the claim form and fill it in and send it in with supporting documents. Claim will be responded to in 2 to 3 working days. 2 to 3 working days. Each claim will be accompanied with supporting document. For example, the freight petition, maybe you are claiming that we applied the wrong freight, so we request to bring your freight invoice. So we can go ahead with it. HS code, category, data sheet, picture or product manual. Whatever the sale contract, as for the price list, these are just examples of a few of the documents that can support your claim. In case of the importer is not certified with the final decision that Viva render, you can go forward by going to LRA, LRA, and if they go through it and it's deemed necessary, we take the necessary action. Amendment, replacement, and credit notes. The broker must bring an official letter on the heading paper and stamp, explaining duty and amendment. What do we want to amend? We agree that sometimes you submit a performer invoice and there are changes in our performer, and you want to change it, you want to make a change, you want to make an amendment of your document. You can bring a letter from IPD, that letter has to go back to the Ministry of Commerce for approval. Because the IPD is commerce document and we cannot make changes on it without they know about it. So you have to take it back there, they will sign it, approve it, attach it, and bring it back to the same go for replacement. If you lost a document, you do the same for IPD. For IRF, you just come, we'll give you a new one, you tap it, and bring it over to us. And that can be done in just 1 working day. We have administrative charges, 73 fees attached to it, $10 for replacement, $50 for replacement of lost CRF, and $10 for amendment. The importer can ask for a credit note. You can ask for a credit note if maybe you want to cancel the shipment. But asking for the credit note, ask the time frame. You must ask before the expiration date of the RRF or the IQD. And then we apply the rate on it and get your credit note being used in 1 year time. You can hold it for 1 year or we will take accept it. Status. That is when you check how far your file is gone. You can check the status online. You can apply for the online connection, and you yourself can sit in your office and track your shipment within our system. Whether it's the inspection, you have no more inspection, certificate is ready, and so we can track it from your office. Or better still, you call those lines for help, or you can go to our help desk, and then we'll help in the process. These are remarks. All documents submitted to Viva must be consistent and legal. We are also faced challenge with that. Please note that importers are fully responsible of the accuracy of the information provided on the different documents submitted. That is invoice. If you give an invoice for DDR, we issue a certificate based on what you gave us. Because we have not seen the product. You have already imported the product in your container. So what you gave us, say, I brought 10 bags of rice, we issue a certificate based on 10 bags of rice. So any other that comes afterward, when especially ongoing, you'll be held liable. For DDR, please open your file before the arrival of the shipment. We have one of our importers that is good that when your shipment leaves from origin, you open a file to make the process easier. You may make a statement certificate after 2 days, and if the shipment is already imported, you also be the issue of the storage you're talking about. All right, so we advise you that you open your document sooner than we can go into it. Please note that all payment relating to PSR and DR must be made at our office. Interpass, we face a problem with that, but all our offices at RRA and at Viva Airport, we have the bank there to collect your payment. Please collect your certificate before the arrival of the shipment and verify, as I said in the beginning. Please note that we have an online tracking system, I said already. Please note that guidelines and other documents are available on our website. We have other documents. What the detail that we need from you for DTR, you can track it from our website. All right? If you are bringing in used clothes, you must provide all the weight and the grade. If it's not there, it's very difficult to classify it. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Any questions? We'll take 3. Yeah, okay. One from down here. And Patel.
Yeah, again, I want to say thank you for this presentation. It's great. It's enjoyable. There are a few things I want to bring up here. One is the IRF. You know, we appreciate what you do, your work you do is important, we respect it. But let's facilitate trade. And the way we hope that you can do it is to automate this entire process of IRF. Sometimes people are hanging around for 4 hours, and sometimes even in 4 hours, we don't get a result. When do we see IRF going online that we can be able to process? Because the reason why we're saying this, in most cases for Liberians that travel to China, you have to be on ground, get a copy of your invoice before you send it to the broker here. So if this was online, it will help us. That's one. The other issue is with, I don't know what was it. But this is one key one. The other, you know, when I think about it, I'll put my hand on it and think, okay.
I'm Jerry Lomasco again. 2 questions. On your initial layout of the paper, you had 1.3% of FOB. And in parentheses, you said full on board. Is that full on board or free on board? 2, I remember in 2008 when I returned to Liberia, you had a scanner. Do you still have a scanner? Because it's been reported some time ago that drugs are transiting frequent on road, and that's not good for the National Port Authority. So, do you still have a scanner? That's my question.
Regarding the automation of the RF, we have a solution that we are working on adapting for here. So in the next few months, we'll have something on this. The second question was about the free on board, sorry, it's a mistake. And the last one was the scanner. It's been since, I don't know, 2013 or 12 that we do not have a scanner here. So there's no scanner here. I mean, belonging to Viva.
Why?
I think because of LRS decision to use some other provider for the scanner.
Okay, so on the issue of goods coming, you may mention drugs are coming in. it's not all the goods that enter our borders are expected by people, but let me let you know this. The goods come by land borders. We are not at the land borders. We are at the air, we are with air and sea. That's all.
Beaver. I remember when you came in 1997, in your agreement, one car was always exempted. More especially Liberians who are traveling back to Liberia. Some of them come along with them with one car. As time goes by, you initiate a program, you negotiated with whosoever you know them. And you started asking Liberians to pay for one car, give a fee for one car. And when you arrived in Liberia, you were hired to inspect goods and services from abroad. When did you allow yourself to be a generating arm of government for customs, when you thought that was not part of your agenda when you arrived in Liberia? Thank you.
Okay. You follow, yeah, but I would understand what the period of time if our contract has been changing, what the period of time. So we have a new contract and we execute our duty per that contract that was signed by the government of Liberia. So the one car issue is in the new contract.
But you're talking about but we're not doing the exemption, sorry.
Minister of Commerce, through your negotiation, through your contract, one car bring by Liberians supposed to be exempted. And over the years, with the past administration, you strongly advocated that that one car exemptions should not stand. And in your agreement is there that one car should be exempted. Now that we are here, thank God that Professor Tapper and his team have initiated this program. I will recommend to you, Mr. Minister, that one car exemptions by Liberians who are returning home should be part of this discussion. Number two, during your coming into Liberia, we hire you to do a quality inspections abroad. But in the past, you have transformed yourself into a revenue generating arm of government. You have diverted that quality inspections abroad, allowing the government, like the consumer, to blame the problem on Ministry of Commerce that aligns substandard goods. That's the reason why I'm asking the questions. When did you and the government negotiate for you to become the revenue generating arm of government for NRA? Thank you.
Excuse me. Let me answer.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to solve a problem. This is not here for blaming people. All of what my colleague just said, first we have to find out if they are facts. But we are not in the business of that. We are here to find solution to a problem. I don't know if BVAC can unilaterally decide to change the status by itself. So we have to be careful what we say. So on behalf of the ministry, as much as we would like for us to do all, we are not going to base any decision on what people think. It has to be based on facts. We don't believe that BVAC by itself, without being propelled by another party outside of it, will do what it has to do. I don't want us to do that. Let us find solution to this problem. Thank you. You don't have to answer the question, please.
Thank you. So I think that was the last question. So let's give it up for Jack. We said 3 questions, we told 3 questions. I'm sorry, the other questions will be asked during our working section, please. We said that we will allow the Provost Union. Please come up to make a presentation, then we'll split ourselves up into 4 small groups and proceed to have lunch. Immediately after lunch, we'll come back now and start the working session. Thank you.
Mr. Minister,
his platform gets. My name is Moci the Financial Secretary of the National Customs Book Association of Liberia. I must appreciate the Ministry of Commerce and Industry for this unique and well-meaning occasion. For us as brokers of Liberia, we are like the main players in the trade facilitation of our country. We serve as the conduit to the business people and the government of Liberia. So we understand the entire trade chain in our country. Over the years, we've identified some of those problems that are serving as impediment to our trade that comes from the various land ministries and agencies. And with some specimen I'll be giving you, you identify from BVAC, the MOCI, the shipping lines, and that of the National Revenue Authority in terms of those bottlenecks in our trade in our country. With the Ministry of Commerce, like I said from my initial, you understand that if an importer is coming to Liberia wanting to do business, you have to go to the Ministry of Commerce to obtain a permit that is called the Import Permit Declaration to have the access a commodity to the country. I went to the Ministry of Commerce and submitted to the Ministry of Commerce my invoice along with my bill of lading, giving me the opportunity to obtain from the Ministry of Commerce an RPD to go initiate my work. I went and did my tappings as a broker, as a clearing agent. I submitted to the Ministry of Commerce, and the Ministry of Commerce took my invoice along with my IPD, gave me the permit as a PSI to proceed to the BVAC International to pay as prescribed with my FOB. For us, we say there is that once I have gone to the Ministry of Commerce and we considering the 5-day grace period given to us to work for a businessman, Ministry of Commerce should be able to solve all of our problems if only they identify problem there with me. I went to Ministry of Commerce should be able to sign my IPD from start to end. I proceed to the BVAC International. BVAC will also require me to submit similar documents that are usually submitted to Ministry of Commerce to do a check mechanism to see no variance in the process. BVAC is an institution that is hired by government to do inspection, and most of the inspections that they are done, as witnessed by statistics, the Liberia Revenue Authority say there are some rules, so they are the final attributor in terms of allowing you as a businessman to pay taxes to government, which also creates delay in the trade chain. BVAC process the agent proceed to do the LRA automated system that is known as a quota system. We also identify some delay in the chain. The system that BVAC uses that if you are doing pre-shipping inspection, PSI, the broker will submit all of those required documents to BVAC and in line with the shipper overseas. After he has submitted all of his documents, there will be a certificate issued that is called the clearing report findings. When the clearing report finding is issued to the broker, which is a hard copy, they also refer to the Liberia Authority automated system. They clear information of, for instance, Morilla Business Center. They will submit all of those information to LRA automated system, which will be in a database, but still LRA will request the broker, the clearing agent, to do a scanning of all of those required documents that they have already given to BVAC and Commerce. We see it also as another form of delay in the trade chain before proceeding to APM terminals. After I have scanned all of those required documents that have been prescribed by the Liberia Authority to them, it takes either a day to interchange of emails from the unit system that we must appreciate the Liberia Authority for, which is helping us in our trade environment, that Liberia is some way becoming an AU operator in another sense. But with these numerous of bureaucratic bottlenecks from one ministry to one agency, we think it will cause a complete delay, and APM terminal will tell us as brokers, my contract says the period I have reached now is 5 days. After the 5 days, I encounter storage, I will have to go back to the businessman, which will serve as a problem to us as end users on the local market. So our request is that the process should be unique, where if BVAC allow us to submit to them all of those required documents, let BVAC be able to submit to the laboratory authority all of those required importing documents to allow customs to do the classification or allowing us to know what will be the sum of duty that the consignee will be in the know to pay. In another context, we saw another form of delay. I heard the laboratory authority saying that the red line, the blue line, and the green line. We agree to the system is very unique. Yes, back when the Bureau of Customs and Excise was still at the Ministry of Finance, we have with us in the port what we call a scanning machine, purposely for uniformity commodity. Take for instance, I'm bringing to Liberia 1 40-feet container of white t-shirts, and I failed now to do my inspection overseas, but I chose to come to Liberia to do my inspection here. The scanner made it very easy for us by then. It will scan the commodity to identify where there were different other commodities there, reducing the labor force, which will not consume time. For now, you go to people, there's no scanning machine. You have to open the container, even if it's a uniform commodity, to do physical inspection. We see it as a complete barrier trade. In the event, if it is not a uniform commodity, we say at least you can do something, solving all the commodity within the container to allow a free flow of trade in the process. Another question is that for us, we have identified in the region and some part of Africa that the custom agent, the revenue authority there, work on shift basis. In Liberia, I go to work in the morning as a custom officer by 8 o'clock, 5:30, when I know that I'm to be at home to my children to know the well-being. Other countries, you work on a shift basis. I start my work at 8 o'clock in the morning, I work for first shift, I'm a custom officer. After 12 or 1 o'clock, I retire from my shift, another officer comes and sells my capacity and will make the process on a 24-hour service to keep the trade team moving, to reduce the end user from paying storage, so to help us to go from a professional standpoint. Let the US dollar and the Liberian issue. I want the guy from Patel saying it. Since 2013, Madam Tama used her wisdom to establish what we call irregular stakeholder meetings where we go and discuss issues of such nature. We will bring to the table all of the beautiful suggestions, but when it comes to implementation, it becomes a problem in our country. And we have said this over and over, time upon time. If we discuss for the well-being of our country and it's not implemented, obviously all of our efforts will go in vain. That we are here today say all the beautiful words, the hopeful that tomorrow will achieve. It also possible that all of us will be saying here today will be used as a trash or as a medium of all putting color in the paper after we have wasted all of our time. For us from the Government Association, we think that the trade environment from the Laboratory Authority begins to gradual process. The trade environment from the Ministry of Commerce and Industries is gradually beginning a process. The APN terminal to us is beginning a process, but there are some leakages we need to take into consideration so that our trade environment will be very potent. Thank you also for the
Thank you very much. I'm presenting on behalf of Group 1. We have about 10 persons. The Honorable Deputy Minister and the Minister of Commerce also with us. After going through a series of presentations for which we are here today, mapping and reviewing the input processes, we came down with a few recommendations based on the agencies involved, and I want to read out those recommendations. We, considering the function that it had, everything interplay, we got Minister of Commerce and Industry together with BIVA for the following recommendation. That there be time stamp in the RPD and IRF processes that has to do with the import permit declaration. And we believe, in our group, we believe that because of the lack of time stamp, it is also causing a problem in the processes. So that's why we give this recommendation. And the second recommendation, the final signature for the RPD process be maintained for some verification as it relates to some other infringement of patent right. So we decided that should be maintained because we were being argued among us that we should try to do away with that final signature because it is not so necessary, so that you just get it and sign and it has to do with interaction, so we should get it out. So we argued and we finally decided that it should be maintained. The traders do the import permit declaration process and make sure it is settled and completed before the arrival of their goods. Because the traders too, they are also contributing towards this thing because sometimes it's not completed. They go incomplete and they come up with some issue that, our processes, we don't clear our goods on time, this is happening, but these goods should be efficient. They should do time management and observe what they're supposed to do, what is required of them should be done timely so as to avoid all kind of delay and cost to them. The beaver be time sensitive and put in more time to do away with some of the delay. How do they do that? We are recommending, our recommendation is that beaver should do automation that will help to reduce those kind of processes that would bring about delay in the process. The beaver should employ more staff for inspection of commingled containers or shipment to avoid shipment resulting into DR. Yeah, penalty, yeah. That this is to APM terminal. The following recommendations are strictly to APM terminal. That holiday, Saturdays, and Sunday be excluded from the 5 days for fees payment. That refrigerated containers be given 24 hours before plugging in fees for payment. Okay. And then we come to NPA. Again, this is for NPA/APN terminal. We said they should deploy the process. They should process vessels at night as well as in the day. They would decide how it should be like. This was in process before, but it is not there. So since they are running 24-hour process, they should make sure that these vessels are also processed at some part of the night to reduce the delay. That the scanning system be re-established so as to reduce the kind of delay that we observe now. We had a scanning system before, but then it is now more efficient. As of now, it's not efficient, so we recommend that that be reinstituted. ARA/customs. The customs as a good system be more efficient so as to reduce some of the delays sometimes according to our group discussion we have, so that there's breakdown in the system, so that it's not available at time to traders. So traders believe, the group number one believe that this is also contributing to some cumbersome process and delay in some other issue with traders, and it leads to cost. These are the few recommendations that we have. And I want to say thank you to the group members, and on behalf of you, this is a recommendation that we have, and I present it on behalf of the group. My name is Robert Monbabesa from Custom Modernization Unit,
Group 2 is a group that comprises of those heads from the Development Ministries, agencies, and the Paris sector, the National Book Association. For some of our recommendations that we try to point out is that this is the best interest of the trade zone of our country. First is that we said all of those land ministries and agencies that are involved in the trade chain under this new administration, we have to revisit some of their laws and some of the regulations that are serving as a complete impediment to trade. The always penalty on vehicles that are imported to our country, the DR 10% penalty on commodities that are coming to the country that did not do the pre-ship inspection, the 48-hour time frame given by the Ministry of Commerce in terms of processing the RPD, we say it's important that we go to an automated system like what their sister entities are doing, the BVAC and that of the Laboratory Authority. If you have to do an importation, you have to go to the Commerce Ministry and obtain your RPD R2 online that you can submit to Commerce, and Commerce should be having a tracking system instead of requesting for the name of the consignee to say, consignee John Brown. There will be a numbering system that they will be able to wire to BVAC for your service charges based upon the FOB. The BVAC also will do similar in following you through the same automated system to the LRA for your final custom processing, which we think will be one of the simplest ways. Next is that we say to the importers to also, before your commodity can start to think about arriving on our waters, you should be able to get to first the Ministry of Commerce to obtain your RPD, go through your process adequately to save you time, to not incur storage that you'll be thinking that you go to APM terminal to request for storage equipment, which will now be in conformity of the contract that they are signed with our country. So you go earlier and start your process. Don't wait for the arrival of the commodity before you can start to process. And you as a shipper should be able to give a full disclosure of what are those commodities that you are importing to the country, so that when the broker or the clearing agent takes these documents to the Ministry of Commerce for inspection, the laboratory will be able to do a comprehensive inspection on the commodity in terms of the wear and tear of the commodity, the expiration of the commodity, whether you benefited from paying rent or some way going on the contrary. Another thing again I do say is that our laboratory should be of the best international practice, where we will be able to determine, not like what we are doing now, some way, let me say, we borrow from the public works. The Ministry of Commerce, as a ministry in Liberia, should have her own standard laboratory that will allow her to conduct adequate check on the status of the commodity that will be imported to our country. And we said again for our group to BVAC on the issue of the currency. Like we said, the currency issue is a major issue. Take for instance, Madam Saki, younger brother out of maybe Lofa, if I'm not making a mistake, wanting to bring a commodity to Liberia and wouldn't have in hand $11, but subjecting him to pay to BVAC US dollar, which will cause him to go back to bank and buy US dollar on a higher rate, unlike our normal rate, which will cause a complete delay in the individual obtaining the US dollar to go and pay BVAC service fee, leave from BVAC, go to the shipping lines, Adam Max line, OBT, and the rest of them, to pay for the delivery order, and they will not be paying Liberian dollars, but they will be compelled to pay US dollar. The number of days to be taking in line to look for US dollar will also cause delay in the chain. We also look at the issue of the video order payment to the various shipping lines. Take for instance, you are importing to Liberia a commodity on a single bill of lading that carries 5 consignment. The shipping line will restrict you, they will demand you to pay not on the bill of lading, but to pay on the number of consignments. If you have 5 containers on the bill of lading, you are compelled to pay on the 5 items that are on the bill of lading. I think it will be important that you pay on the bill of lading to reduce costs of cost, to reduce the cost of importation of the commodity, so that the end users will at least have a trickle-down effect in terms of benefiting themselves in terms of buying, sell commodities. So if my bill of lading carries 10 containers, I should be able to pay for the bill of lading, not for the 10 containers, even if the shipping line thinks that there should be service charges to be it should be charged to you for the commodity. It shouldn't be like you are paying for 1 container at the normal rate and you buy your goods as a consignment. We also said in our group that those major entities that are within the port facilities, specifically the people of Bolivia, that help our government to raise basic revenue, should be people that will work on a shift basis. And this goes to the Labrador Revenue Authority, the APN terminal, which that they are presently doing now, I must applaud them for that. The Ministry of Commerce and Industry, the officers there to be doing inspections should also be there on a shift basis. The Beaver International, Mr. King, I think is taking into consideration the officers there to do inspections should also be there on a shift basis, so that if I come to work for 4 or 5 hours, I will be sure that after my 4 hours I retire, my colleague will be taking over and the working system will be going on a regular basis to save the consignees and the business people from continual paying of storage. And lastly, we said those payments to APM terminals on holidays where the banks, the line agencies, and the Freeport of Moreover MPA, Viva International, they are now operating on the holidays, but the business people, they are compelled to pay storage charges on the holiday. That all of the other land ministry agencies, they are now working. We think is now a feasible solution in trading. With this, our group would like to start this point and tell you this is our presentation. Thank you so much. My name is Katama Morris from the Brooklyn Association of Liberia. Thank you.
So the way we approached our problem solving in our group was to think about the process holistically. So we did not attempt to sort of address direct specific solution or prescribe specific recommendations for specific institutions. We just thought of it as a general problem, and we are in it together, so we will have to address it as a unit. I know several of our recommendations, our problems were mentioned earlier on, but I'll just run through them quickly, and I'll ask that where I'm stuck or I'm not articulating what was said properly, I asked members of the group to kindly join me. And we were quite fortunate to have a diverse group. I'm from the INGO side. We had people from APM terminals. We had the ministry there. We were fortunate to have brokers. We had LRA. And so we had a good chunk of diverse views. So the way we defined the first problem was improving efficiency in the port process. And for that one, we defined it in 2 ways. First, the Ministry of Commerce thought multiple visits to the ministry was cumbersome, and so reduction in the number of visits to the ministry for any form or any part of the importation process should be reduced. Another point of that was essentially looking at the compliant customers. My colleague on the team suggested that LRA, particularly here, provide waivers for compliant customers who were bringing in, specifically Semenco, he mentioned, were bringing in items into the country where this was getting more technical, but I will mention it, that they start to incur charges after 6 hours. And I don't know what particular item this is or what kind of a shipping. I'm not well versed in this to speak on that. But he said LRA should consider waiver for these kinds of compliant customers in certain instances. The third problem we thought of was access to information. And we realized that there are several layers of information spread all over the place, and there's no repository of one place where all of the information on just the port process is centrally located. And so the ask was from the ministry. We asked that the Ministry of Commerce take lead on this, specifically to sort of collect information from all participants in the port process, import process space, and just either dump it on your website or find somewhere where it's a one-stop shop where for all information on import processes. I think that will streamline some of the efficiency and inefficiencies in the process. We also talked about, yeah, and this is something that I'm more interested in, is basically transaction cost. And for all of what we've discussed today, the other side of the equation that I've not heard is how do we cost some of these processes? Because to be able to measure, you need to cost. To be able to count, you need to quantify things. And one of the things that my agency, USAID, and the World Bank, we're doing currently is we'll identify 5 products in the market, and we'll track it. Thanks for a brilliant suggestion from Madam Commissioner from LRA. But we thought at first to track it from the moment it reaches the port in Liberia to the moment it hits the shelf in the stores. And we'll track the additional cost that it incurs over time. Not just the cost of buying the goods or whatever the required costs are, but costing the processes itself. Over time, it's efficient because we can measure, but actually we can make policy cases in those directions. So we're thinking of that, and the recommendation will be that upon completion of these studies, we provide the results to relevant government institutions to take action. On the, sorry about it. So timeline. The issue has been mentioned before, but the problem with Saturday and Sundays for APM terminals. There were several solutions here, and I won't delve into all of them, but someone suggested that we have a one-stop shop or open offices with the intent of creating jobs for government workers who will work, and even the bank who would work on Saturdays and Sundays to collect the required fees to allow people to collect their containers. That would be an opportunity. Someone said that APM should recalibrate their time based on the concession agreement to stop working on Saturdays and Sundays. That's another suggestion, but again, it's open for discussions. Issues with IPD. So we sort of lump the issues with IPD in several levels, but we will not go into them, just generalize them as issues with IPD. And one of the solutions or recommendations for that was to, this was quite radical, that's what the person told me, was basically have waivers for all import commodities with the exception of explosives, pharmaceuticals, petroleum, and rice. So every other thing should not go through that IPD process. This was just a recommendation. And another thing, yeah, with the IPD also, somebody suggested that the timeline, the 48 hours timeline was a bit too long, and that the Ministry of Commerce should work to reduce that hour to 24 hours, and also to optimize the IPD process, basically reduce the multiple signatures and all of the other issues that are along the spectrum of the IPD collection or everything like that. Relevant port institutions for problems. Okay. So another thing we talked about was sort of a grievance redress mechanism. So this came about when somebody said we need to have a clock within the government institutions or the relevant agencies that will basically tell them that, listen, the clock has started on this particular import, and then you need to get it done within the defined hours. The issue with that was that if it's the institution that is governed deserves to say who guards the guard. I mean, they basically manage themselves. So there will be an opportunity to have a grievance redress area where customers and individuals can air their grievances, but also force the relevant institutions to address those grievances. Delegation of authority. So there are instances where people mention that we've got multiple persons and individuals single persons signing documents, and when they're not available, nothing gets done. I think that is something that's also eating into the time and the process. So it's also costly. And then we talked about cost to obtain delivery orders. Someone said to me in the group that in 2010, delivery orders were about $25. Today, they're between $260 to $300. It's quite a spike. And what can be done about that? Another thing that was mentioned was, sorry, I got notes all over the place. On the APM terminal side, it was recommended that all of GOL, and this goes back to the second point I made, that not only having weekends, people work on weekends as a form of job creation and revenue generation on the government side, but also that all of GOL related processes should be put in a single window at a one-stop shop location, not just the APM terminal, but all of GOL processes. And then the banks could also join in that point to allow them to smooth and streamline the process, but also improve the efficiency of the entire process. If I missed anything, I ask my team members to please chime in. If not, then thank you.
Well, I'm presenting on behalf of Group 4, also a group that had a diverse membership from both the private and the public sector. Well, our approach was to specifically address entities and institutions that are involved with the clearance process. And we did that in the order of the way the presentations were made. And so we started with Moci at Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Recommendation number 1 is for the use of a one-time approval process of the IPD. We are yet to understand the rationale behind going to MOCR for an approval before the goods arrive, and then going back there for another approval before the goods is clear even after it arrives. That is a little cumbersome. So we think anything that can be done during those 2 times visitation can be done at one time. So the request recommendation is there should be a one-time approval. The next recommendation is that the Minister of Commerce should carry out its price verification. During the presentation, they indicated that they do price verification. That's why they like to look at the invoices. In our mind, from our recommendation, they should do the price verification from finished declarations. And those information can be gathered from the LRA database. Because by then you already have a finished declaration, you have the final value for each of these goods. So if you take it from the IPD, you may be mistaken. Because you don't know whether someone got amended, even by on the CRF or not. The third one is, in fact, automate the entire approval process and get it simple. And that can be done. The fourth one, and perhaps you want to look at this clearly, is why are we granting and why do we issue permit for export? We are producing goods, we want to export them. Why are we requiring the issuance of permit for export? What value is that adding? Why are we requesting for permit for goods that we have produced and want to encourage export? So that process should be reviewed. If there is no essence, there's no need to do it. We'll remove it. If there's no essence for export permit, if there's no reason, because we are producing our own goods, we want to export to other countries. Why should we provide permit to export our own goods that we are producing to other countries? It's something we want you to review. And so we come to the LRA. Some of these delay can be can come from the shipping line. We do know that the LRA has an agreement, a gentleman agreement actually, with the shipping lines to provide the manifest 72 hours prior to arrival. But what is lacking or the vacant there is, vacuum is, what if they don't, what happens? So they should be made to do it by the LRA or they pay penalty. You have to get them to provide the information and this way allow pre-arrival declaration so that even before the goods comes, somebody will have done, you are able to make a declaration before the goods come. So you should be able to play your goods the same day it arrives, as long as you have done all the pre-arrival activities. So they should be made to provide the information. And we know that some of them are providing it like Iceland, but still there are issues with some other shipping agents. The next thing is, the LRA should remove the penalties on amendment of manifest. There are instances where there's an error on the manifest when the posting from the shipping line to LRA as a system. And once the importer or broker goes for an amendment, LRA is requested for penalty. It's not the fault of the importer or the broker. It should not be penalized. Remove that kind of penalty. So next one is to APM terminal. APM terminal should exclude holidays, Sundays, and unforeseeable interference of trade, within the trade chain due to strike actions by any entity within, so be it the brokers that strike, it's not the fault of the importer. Be it APM terminal or employees that strike, and they do sometimes, it is not the fault of the importer. They should not be penalized for that. They shouldn't pay storage for days that they contributed no negligence for. So they should exclude those kind of days for storage. APM terminal should also increase its storage-free days to up to 7 working days. 7 working days should be enough. If you are weekends, you will have enough time to turn because we know that they are here for business. We think it's international best practice not to go, as we hear some people talk about 21. No, when you do a survey and benchmark, there's no way you see 21 days free of duties. So we're saying they should go to 7 working days. And APM terminal should also increase its number of equipment. The crane, if you have many cranes, you shouldn't have a lot of queue. We think that the number of cranes that they have for loading and unloading is not enough because the downtime sometimes is long. So BVAC, we said BVAC should work with LRA to utilize the scanning system. That is electronic examination, and it's important. It's electronic examination or inspection. So since you are doing destination inspection with the LRA, BVAC and LRA should work together to bring into play, to bring into utilization the scanning system. And BVAC should also automate its RRF. Because as you indicated, you tell somebody to come back 4 hours. In their presentation, they indicated that they have given the brokers or importers 4 hours to be able to get the RRF process. That means if somebody lives, maybe Mount Bartley has come to get this RRF, they have to stay around. They stay around your offices for the 4 hours. And who knows whether that 4 hours is actually, they're going to even get it. So automate it so that the person can get it online. Automation is a major tool for modernization. And we think BVAC should be in the position to do that. This is generic, and this one goes to basically the importers and the brokers. When we check our system, we realize that after the processing, after the assessment notice has been issued, on the average, it takes 5 days before payment is done. So who's causing the delay? After customs has said your goods is clear, and we have all of the information on our system, it takes on the average 5 days before they can go and pay the duties and taxes. The 5 days, you have yourself just exhausted the one that is provided for APM terminal. So the recommendation here is that all importers and brokers should complete the pre-arrival processes, including you should have the money on hand to pay your duties and taxes. There are people who say, get will be processed, let me be looking for money. But how can you buy the goods? You didn't have the money. And some, they give the money to the broker and they eat it. And that's the reality. We've had several cases of this nature. and then they want to teach more and cover more. So the time is taken is also affecting the inquiry. People ask that the is already in the game, I can't play it, also that declaration. So you make sure that the pre-arrival activities are perfectly done, and that the people just check their documents, ask for receipts to ensure that you don't go to the link where they are not available. And then the last one is publication. Information dissemination, that's very important, and it's in fight, number 1, Article 100 of the Trade Facilitation Agreement. Let all fees, including the custom broker fees, be published on well-known websites, including the LRA website, Moci website, and those to be identified. We think the more you provide information, the better things will be. The more you hide them, the cumbersome things become. So we have to begin to be transparent and even more efficient. I thank you on behalf of Group 4.
Let me say on behalf of President George Manawia and the entire government for the time taken to look at one of the crucial bottlenecks in the commerce and trade of this country. Usually when people make significant strides, which they don't consider to be anything, you see the impact of that stride when it takes a positive turn in the lives of our people. And this is why we want to thank especially those people in the private sector and others who have come. As a pro government, the decisions we've reached here today, the very fact that we will assemble here for 8-9 hours to discuss issues that relate to the commerce and trade of this country and issues that eventually affect the livelihood of our people, it is significant. So I want us to give ourselves a hand clap for that. As a government, we like to work with the private sector. We prefer not to force the private sector into doing anything. But when the private sector decides to work with us, we value that partnership. And this is why, on behalf of the President and the government, I want to say thanks to APM Terminal and BVAC for coming here. We believe that the efforts we made today, the recommendations and conclusions we have reached, will enhance the effort being made by the President to reduce the cost, the high cost of living on the common person on the street. We believe that even though we sign those things, we'll go into it, but we prefer to use moral suasion, where we can talk to our partners, talk to everybody involved in the commerce and trade of this country, so that we can be able to create an enabling environment where stability can be the order of the day. On behalf of the President, again, let me assure all of you private investors that this government will protect and keep safe your investment, ensure a stable environment, predictability in your work, and cooperation in all of this work. Keeping in the forefront the interests of the people at all times. For me personally, it is a pleasure, a unique pleasure, for me to meet a Liberian female entrepreneur who produces some of the most important things that are needed around the world. And I'm making reference to Madam Harris. Right there, please stand up. Please stand up. It is a pleasure to meet you. And let me pray for us. Let's work together. Thank you very much for coming, APM. Thank you for coming, BVAC. It was a good discussion. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.